Hello, welcome to my channel, Share It with Merit. I'm Merit. Today I'm going to talk more about how to achieve more happiness and health in your life. In my last video, I talked about the definition of happiness and the difference between a trait of sort of long-term state of contentment versus a state of happiness is when, those sort of peak moments of elation and joy. And those happen, when good and fun things happen to us. But I'm going to focus today on that trait of sustained well-being, a sense of love for yourself, a sense of calm and peace. And one of the quickest ways to get there is actually to be more selfish. And I use that word very intentionally because you've probably heard a lot of things like self-care and self-compassion. And those are wonderful. And that's ultimately where we're going here. But what I hear is a lot of people say, well, that's being selfish. And we need to not let that be an obstacle, because as soon as you say that me taking care of myself is being selfish, you've just stopped yourself, right? You've put a limitation to your continued happiness and well-being. As soon as you say that taking care of me is being selfish, okay? You showed up in this world, in this being, in this vessel, this psyche, this soul, whatever you want to call it. This being is your primary and really in some ways your only responsibility, because the more that you actually care for this being, and I think it helps to kind of think of it in the third party, because that takes that selfishness piece away. It's the ego that's telling you you're being selfish. But when you really strip that away and recognize that you've been blessed with this life force, it's a gift, right? And the brain will quickly turn it into a curse, right? I have to, and it's hard to take responsibility for ourselves. And I think that's part of what happens, is that's actually a big responsibility, right? Oh gosh, what do I do with all this energy, all this life force, right? What am I supposed to do with it? What am I here for, right? That's a big, scary question. And so it can be actually the path of least resistance to just say, let me just not think about that. Let me focus on others. Let me put this aside so I don't actually have to step into this energy and into this body, this being in this life, right? And so if you think about it this way too, every choice you make is toward or away from health/happiness, right? And the goal is not to make 100% happy, healthy choices. That would be perfectionism, and that's not a healthy choice, okay? But it's to be intentional and aware of your choices, even when they may be away from health and happiness for the moment. And an example is, in terms of self-care, in this U.S. culture that I live in, there's a narrative about, oh, you took a nap, oh, you sat down for 5 minutes, oh, you rested, you horrible being, right? How dare you rest? Go, 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 do, produce, make money, more. Corporate revenues have to increase to infinite, right? They can never go down. We can never sit, we can never rest. So, there's that, right? And that puts pressure on all of us to even, not want to share when we're tired or we actually took a rest, right? But can you drive a car on an empty tank? You cannot, right? So when you make a choice to rest, whatever that looks like for you, watch that internal voice. And our internal critics can be a bully or they can be a coach. That's another tool that you can use. If your inner critic is a bully, see if you can start shifting into allowing it to be a coach, right? Because it's not always a bad thing to think about what you're doing and why you're doing it, and if there's a change you want to make. But let that inner voice be one of support and growth versus one of putting you down, right? And oftentimes that that negative voice, if you will, comes from all of those narratives that you didn't make up anyway. You just showed up in the time and space that you showed up. And you have to navigate all these different narratives coming at you, whether it's from the culture at large, your family of origin, peers, church, school, all of that, all of that comes in, and our brain, psyche, ego has to try and sort through all of that. And the more active we are in our choices, and the more we own our choices, the more we're likely to start to drive our lives in the direction we want to go. And I would be remiss not to bring up the topic of authenticity, purpose, and passion, right? Gifts. So the more you live in line with your values, your purpose, your passion, the more happiness and health you will experience. Okay. And again, it's easy to get derailed from that because there's a lot of pressure saying, no, don't do that. I mean, look, you show up in this world, and from day one, the world is saying, do this, do that, you're this, you're that, right? So there's already a push-pull in terms of, here's who I am here to be. And of course, when we're born, we certainly don't know that. And we've got to figure it out along the way. No one ever says, here, here's the manual. This is what you're supposed to do. Go do it. Right. And so it's tricky stuff, but it's very doable stuff when you have this awareness. Right. And so also what I talked about in that last video is about defining your own happiness. And I have the recipe for happiness on my website that can kind of help guide you toward, if you're not even sure what your purpose and passion and gifts are, then that will help you start defining that for yourself. And then what I'm talking about today is really sticking to that path, right? And not allowing any negative mindset or old narratives or old patterns to block you from that, right? So, if your choice is to rest, then own that choice and be proud of that choice. And that is a healthy choice. One of the examples I give is in terms of an unhealthy choice is, and I may have shared this in a video already, I don't know. Anyway, it's worth repeating. I like to make ice cream, right? And we all know ice cream is not good for you, right? But I don't want to deny myself ice cream for the rest of my life because I don't want to make 100% healthy choices, because that'd be no fun, right? And I also want to have fun, which is a healthy choice. So it's about balancing that, right? And so I now make my own ice cream, and I have a lot of fun with it. It is a passion, and it is something I really enjoy. And here's the key is when I do eat it now, instead of, getting halfway through a pint and start shooting and shaming myself, I shouldn't do this, it's bad for me. And, that there goes that the bully in my head, you're not a good person, and why are you doing this, blah, blah, blah. So now I tell her, hey, we don't do this all the time. This is something I really enjoy. And then I really am able to enjoy it and savor the pleasure that I am seeking, right? And pleasure is a component of happiness. Pleasure does not equal happiness, as our culture may have you believe, but it is an important component, okay? And so now when I make and eat the ice cream, I am empowered. And yes, I'm making a physically unhealthy choice, but I'm making a mentally healthy one. And I'm doing it so that when I do eat it, I don't feel bad about myself and then want, might as well just eat pizza, right? Right? I don't just keep making unhealthy choices because of the shame I'm putting on myself. So just take the shame out. Take, no, I don't need to put salt in the wound. And I will just say one more thing about this is that the way, some of the obstacles to this is when we don't do these things. So sort of the opposite, when we abandon ourselves, when we abandon taking care of our vessel, right? If we are not taking care of us, whose job is it, right? One way I like to think about it too is that the most loving thing that you can do for the people who love you is to take care of you. And imagine a world where everybody actually did that and we're selfish, right? And what I don't mean by selfish is to be harmful to anybody else, right? If you're taking, well, I'm not going to say that, because you're taking care of yourself shouldn't harm anybody else, but sure, don't be anti-others. And being pro-self doesn't mean being anti-others. And I think that's where some of that connotation comes from, that somehow if we're taking care of ourselves, we're harming others, we're not doing something for someone else. And when you fill your cup up first and you take care of yourself through compassion and respect and love and all of those wonderful things, you'll find that you actually have an abundance and you have more to offer others, actually, than when you sort of give and give and give and don't care for you. You end up depleting yourself, and you often find yourself in a place of resentment and scarcity, and not really even having much to offer, right? So my recommendation is to go out there and be selfish, take care of your beautiful vessel being body, show it the respect and the responsibility that it deserves. We're all here for a very short time, not to get too existential on you, but it's what I do. So why not take the best care of yourself and find the most happiness and well-being that you can while you're here, and enjoy the ride. All right. If you'd like more, go to my website, shareitwithmerit.com, and I will see you in the next video.